Welcome to another toy review and sketch with Rufusman, starring the Halo Spartan Yoroi action figure. It's going to be a lot of fun because I don't actually know much about the game, but when I saw this, I'm like, I have to have it because it just looks so cool. I mean, it combines sci-fi with Japanese samurai motifs, and I thought it was just going to be not only just fun to add to my collection, but also used for this exercise, which involves drawing. So here we go. My son Noah is assisting me today. We're going to unbox this together, and so you're going to see him kind of just working with Dad here, figuring out how this action figure works. So let's get this thing out. Let's get out of the plastic. It's a little slow going sometimes when we got that tape and all the other little wrapping and stuff. But hey, it's getting there. My son's super excited. I kind of just let him take charge on this because he really wanted to open up this toy out of the other ones we have lined up for the show. So here we go. It's looking pretty sweet. Yeah, loving the design. Really love the design. The action figure itself is not as well constructed as I would like. The joints are kind of subpar. They just don't hold the shape. They are kind of flimsy. So it's not one for you to do extensive playtime or even any crazy posing with. It's more for like you can get the reference of the costume and the props, and you'll have to kind of just go from there and design it. The hands do switch out. You can add different accessories like the energy blade that my son's holding right now. He's got a gun, and yeah, he's like, let me see this, Dad. I got this. I'm like, okay, well, let's give him the sword, and I'm seeing if he can fit this gun in. It doesn't look like it fits in his hand, so it looks like it fits into this one. We'll swap this one out, put that one in, and just kind of see what he looks like fully armed with his weaponry. Oh, I love the back. Look at that. Oh, really ingenious. I mean, these game designers are so awesome. Like what they're able to pull off. It's so fun to see what they come up with. Yeah, loving it. All in all, a great action figure in terms of the design and the look. Yeah, with the posability, it's a little tricky. The feet kind of move weird, like they bend down, not up, in some spots. Maybe it's for like a specific pose. Once again, it might be referencing a certain game pose I'm not familiar with, but I mean, it does look pretty sweet. So I think what we have here is enough to do a sketch from. So here we are with the drawing, and as you'll probably tell, it's sped up quite a bit. This took about 44 minutes to do, and a lot of it, well, you'll kind of see the process. With this one, I was playing around with different poses, and I figured out eventually what I wanted to do. And as an artist, it's pretty common to, brainstorm, come up with different drafts as you're developing the drawing. And this is no exception. I've never drawn this figure before, so it was interesting just to kind of get a feel for the props, the armor, and also finding a pose that I felt would fit the character in action. I prefer drawing figures in action versus just in static posing, but it's kind of one of those you kind of have to do a feel for it. And with this one, I decided I'd have him lunging forward with his weapons, as if he's maybe about to, pounce on a opponent or something. Yep. So here I am putting down the skeleton structure, which is basically an exaggerated stick figure. It's got the joints, kind of conveyed by these little balls connected with cylinders, and you're basically just trying to help nail the shape down and the pose. And when it feels right, then you're ready to move on to the next step. And right now it's feeling a lot more dynamic. So I turned down the opacity on my thumbnail sketch layer, and now I've added another layer to now put on the inking, where I put down the specific details on top of the other drawing as reference. So the fun part of this exercise that I've looked forward to doing is drawing the armor. It's just very unique. It has this mesh of the Japanese samurai with a futuristic sci-fi warrior motif, and it's super fun. I was just playing around, kind of just seeing how the armor fits around the character. Some of the pieces like wrap around the shoulder or the joints specifically, and my hope was to convey an action pose that still captured the essence of the character design without getting too bogged down in the details. But certain aspects are really important to nail. Like the energy blade is pretty distinct to the game. Um, and beyond that, though, it really digresses into its own thing, where it's got these really unique contour lines and design lines in the armor. It just gives it kind of this oriental uh, aesthetic to it. Really cool. Just figuring out, okay, how does this armor wrap around the figure, in a three-dimensional way, and try to think of it kind of like like a fruit roll-up, right? You pull it out, it's you can kind of bend it and move it around, and that shape is that wraparound of the object is important to convey, to be convincing. But once again, this drawing is not intended to be a photograph. It's more focused on the action. So I want to have the elements of the armor there, but I don't want to get lost in the trees. And depending on the project you're working on, that will be more important to focus on. Other times it will be the detail. If you're conveying designs to a technician or a collaborator that is, constructing an action figure, for example, you need to get specific. In this case, we want to tell a story or convey a sense of action. So I've captured, the essential components of the armor. But, once again, I don't always have the pose nailed down, and I spent more time than I wanted to on this particular right leg, and it can happen. When you are trying to figure out, oh, what's the right angle, what's going to look dynamic, what's going to look, fitting to the piece here. So I thought, okay, this pose could work. Let's, go with that. Start inking over it, and as I progress and get it going, I see that, that does not look really good at all. Yikes. Let's do this over. And so I, fought it for a little bit and eventually came to a good spot where I felt, okay, this could work. So I'm taking the shapes of the reference and I'm using perspective, foreshortening, and my basic knowledge of anatomy to kind of move it around. Now, hence why you might see different versions of a pose or a sketch, because the artist is working out how to incorporate the design into the action. And so that could involve a couple of sketches and poses. And, here I am even just moving the figure down by just selecting the attached layers and moving it down so I could fit in another prop, like the gun. This is a sketch that, it's got an evolution to it. It's going to progress with, different challenges that, oh, okay, I need to figure this out, make this fit. I, as you can tell, I move the reference point around as I need to. That's the glory of working digitally. It's very versatile. It allows you to kind of move things around really quickly, and it's one of my favorite mediums. In this layer, it's a separate layer underneath the inks. I am tracing right underneath the outline, and the goal is to keep it a connected, continuous line so that when it's complete, I can take my paint bucket tool and just fill the whole thing and do a little tweaks here and there, just filling in some empty spots. But from that layer, I can then select it, like lock the layer. There's a locking feature. It's really handy. It allows you to color just what you have colored down. Like, so the red, it only covers or affects the red when you paint over it. So I was able to do a wash over it. And now I created another layer after selecting my base red, so then I could just color within that outline. So I'm coloring the armor now on a separate layer because I want to do something that's different without affecting the layer below. This is all about strategy. You want to try to make your life as painless as possible by adopting these tricks that allow you to, modify and create the image without things getting in the way. I had a hard time earlier on in my, college days when I was first figuring out digital artwork that, using these different layers really can help me avoid future headaches. I'm not erasing stuff that I'm actually trying to preserve while getting rid of one element. I can have the elements stacked on top of each other in a strategic way. For example, I know that the red is something I want to keep a certain way, and I want to be able to modify or potentially affect the armor on top, like the gold trim, and without having to go back and forth and fix things. And it's really frustrating when you don't use your layers properly. But there's a lot of ways you can use layers, and there's filters and all types of amazing stuff. I'm still learning how to use all of these tools effectively. Now here I've locked the lines to then just color the outline of the energy blade. It's a really cool effect. I really enjoy doing that. So here's another layer I made underneath the red to kind of give that glow for the energy blade. I used a paint tool, and now I'm adding another layer underneath for the background. I'm using a gouache brush to use a contrast. I love dynamic color schemes, so I picked a complementary color to the reddish rusty red, more of like a teal or a blue underneath, and it's really coming together. I added another layer as well on top of my background layer, as you'll see, with just a basic blue, and I tweaked that opacity. You'll see that in just a little bit. This is just really to help do a nice smooth wash for the mood, and I tweak that a little bit. I pull some of it back, and until I feel like, okay, it's in a good spot now. I think it's ready. So here's the sketch. Really fun exercise. Thank you so much for watching this video. I hope you were able to enjoy it, maybe learn a few things, be inspired. If you have ideas of characters you'd like me to draw or action figures I should check out, feel free to comment below. Please like and subscribe, share with your friends, and have a wonderful day. Thanks, everybody.